Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo.
On this episode of the History of the Chorus podcast with Curtis and Josh, we take a look at the band from Fort Smith, Arkansas, known as Eso-Charis. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at IsSurviveByPro for news and latest episode postings. And make sure to subscribe to the show. Leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast service you're using. And if you'd like to see us do some live streams, leave us a comment or tweet us the keyword stream. Now, without further ado, let's start the show.
The devil is in Atlanta. Army surrounded.
Born with a future of our past, illuminate, and fall against the grain, be transformed. Reborn is the one who's been called, not forced under to fall. Fall to the merciless, fire cut off, and be set apart. Will you seek shelter when the world is convinced that you deserve to die? For your love inside, your heart seeks pleasure. Will you be grasped by it or captive? Will it held by him forever? Not really great to do, spoken lyrics. The cadence, you got to get the cadence in there, buddy. Welcome back to the History of the Chorus podcast, sponsored by the Church of the Seventh Track, where each and every episode we take a look at the history of a band from the core genre. I'm Curtis, and with me, as always, is my co-host, my good friend, my buddy, my rock star of a man. I don't know. It's Josh. Party on, Josh.
Huh? Oh, party on, Curtis.
Getting catching some sun out there on the
Yeah.
on the Sandals Resort at Dragonstone.
Yep, Sandals Dragonstone still out here.
Love it. I love it, man. Love it. You're probably gonna need to stay out there for a few more hours. You're still looking pretty pale. The White Ghost. They call me the White Ghost. Hey Josh, speaking of Dragonstone, dragons, stone, House of the Dragon, Throne of the Dragon. I got a preview for you, Josh, of season 2, episode 5, right here.
What?
It's now.
I don't think I was disappointed. I mean, I knew going from the episode last week, we were gonna go to more of a talking in rooms episode.
I'm about to say this is a political episode. This
Yeah,
is a
for
political
sure.
episode. I could have just watched C-SPAN the whole time. Basically. But
It's one of those episodes that we I don't know exactly what we've called it before, but it's essentially like a montage episode, you know? You're
right.
getting only 2 to 3 minutes in like a scene with
Mhm.
each little bit, and then we're moving on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next
It's
thing.
well, and it's very like from the 3 places that we got going on right now, King's Landing, Heron Hall, Dragonstone. It's very okay, we're here, now we're over there. Now we're here, now we're back over here, now we're up there. It's like everybody's getting their turn. It's like, this is nauseating.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just kind of disappointed because I felt like, okay, we turned the heat up on the last episode. Now we're getting into it, man. And then it feels like there's like, yeah, turn it back down a little. It's like, I don't care about the boardroom meetings. You know,
It
but
it depends for me, and we'll get into a couple of those because some of these black councils are not very
ah,
enlightening, but
no,
there
and
is
it's kind
some
of like
stuff.
recycled at times. I mean, at this point where it's like, yes, we understand you're not really like all on board with her just kind of like waiting it out and you want to go and you're really just kind of like questioning her authority and da, da, da. It's like, oh my God.
They're just going round and round in circles.
Yeah. Like I
Um,
know it. I get it. What are you gonna do about it?
yeah, I feel like we're constantly just having the same scene in every
Yeah.
Black Council.
Again,
Uh,
good episode. I don't hate it. It's
yeah,
just one of those where it's like, ugh, it's a political episode. Like you said, it's what'd you say, talking in rooms episode for sure.
yeah.
And now we're in this room, and now we're in that room. Check out that full episode. I've got the link in the description below. And hey, while you're at it too, if you're behind, you can always just go check out the first 5 episodes. Wait a minute, Curtis. Wait a minute. I haven't even seen the first season. Josh, what if somebody hasn't even seen the first season? What do you think that they should do, Josh?
The what?
Huh? Oh, wow. Wake up, buddy. Wake
I'm on
up.
vacation. We're at Sandals Dragonstone.
I mean, this question was right up your alley though, bro. It's about
Wh-
it. I
What
said,
was it?
what if somebody hasn't even seen season one of HBO's House of the Dragon? What do you think they should do?
Well, we covered it, so they should definitely go over to YouTube or Spotify and they can search up the Throne of the Dragon podcast, and you can get our spoiler-free coverage of season one in its entirety. And there's also a bunch of episodes on there where we go through each chapter of George R. R. Martin's book Fire and Blood, at least up until where season two starts. So
No spoilers.
we're
No
gonna
spoilers.
we'll resume that. But if you've been listening to our show, you know that that is taking precedent during this time. So here we
Mhm.
are, Curtis, for yet another Tiny Sode. A History of the Cores edition of a Tiny Sode.
Oh, just realized my background was wrong.
The-
Lazy,
Oh,
lazy.
I thought it was dramatic reveal. It's Eso-Charis.
All right, that is right, Josh. Today we are taking a look at the band known as, I think it's actually Eso-Charis.
No, whichever.
Yeah, whatever. It's
Tomato,
Latin. We don't
tomato.
speak Latin. We speak English here on the History of the Chorus podcast, and sometimes we even struggle with that. So, categorized, Josh, in the genre of mathcore, metalcore, Christian metal, shocking, and alternative rock. Because I'm going to tell you right now, pretty on the nose if you haven't read the lyrics uh, with that Christian metal. Yeah. Have you
Yeah,
ever? I know we've mentioned this band before, but before all of that, have you ever even heard of this band?
I had heard of them, but I'd never listened to them.
Yeah.
Which is weird that I didn't know that what's his face from Handshake Murders was in this band also.
Yep.
I mean, this
Yep.
would have been before Handshake, but
Right. Yeah. This is before Handshake. Obviously, this would be before Corey joined Norma Jean. Um, yeah. You said Living Sacrifice. Basis was in
I
this
think
band
that's
too,
the
but they would be during
only
the yeah.
yeah, and it's like a side project of his. He starts
Right.
it with Matthew Putnam,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
then
Yep.
they rope in Corey and somebody else, and yeah, the guy from Handshake Murders.
There's a lot of different members that come and go throughout the time in the short period here. Formed in 1995 in Fort Smith, Arkansas, by brothers Corey on vocals and guitar, and Matthew Putnam, along with guitarist Matt Depper and bassist Arthur Green. After playing their first show in November 1995, guitarist Matt Depper would depart. Peace out, get the hell out. The band, for the time being, would continue on as a trio, which is very interesting. Remember that number, Josh. 3. Remember, it's the lowest we get here. Originally, their name was not Eso-Charis, Josh. Their name was actually Elliot.
Elliot.
Elliot. I like
Okay.
Eso-Charis better.
Yeah.
While under this name, the band would release their first EP, 1996's The Plateau Green EP, which was self-released. Now, good luck finding that because I have scoured the internet and YouTube, can't find it. So somebody knows anything about it or has a copy or whatever, please give it to me. I'd like to hear it. I'm sure it's raw as all get out for 1995 or 96, but yeah. Anyway, because there were other bands with the name Elliot, the group would decide to change their name to Eso-Charis, which in Greek translates to within grace or inside grace, making this change soon after the release of their EP. I mean, Elliot's such just like a basic name,
Yeah.
It's more like a working title at that point, I feel.
Yeah.
With this name change came the addition of guitarist slash vocalist Jason Holmes. That's the name, Josh, from Handshake Murderers. Slowly but surely, the band would start to gain a following as they were now back to a four-piece band, itching to record and release their one and only full-length album, 1998's self-titled Eso-Charis, which at the time was self-released. It would be produced by Barry Pointner, who has done work with Zayo, and Bruce Fitzhugh from the band Living Sacrifice. Originally released independently, Swedish record label Dayglow Records would lease the album, later giving way to One Solid State Records to market it in the States. It's a kind of a progression there. Steve Lousy of AllMusic.com wrote in his short review of the album, this quote disc isn't your standard fare for the typical death metal genre. Sure, the vocals of Corey Putman stack up against Extol or Obituary, especially on the cuts The Narrowing List and Spirit Revival, where Putman offers up the customary scowl. Where the band differs a bit is on songs like Once Upon a Fashionable, with an intro sung in a real voice, or on the cut Processed Bodies that feature more melodic instrumentation. What's really surprising, though, is the disc closer added as a secret instrumental track. The tune is slow, melodic, and non-violent, putting a unique twist on an interesting project. Songs on this album include Born with a Future, Processed Bodies, Once Upon a Fashionable, The Narrowing List, Spirit, Revival, Dynamis, Skimmers, The Judas Swing, and the hidden track of Outro. Okay, so we're very familiar, Josh, with Corey Putman and his work on Norma Jean, his vocal style, a very interesting vocal style that's very unique to him. Uh, very young, very raw on this album, and even the next one. What do you think of their one and only full-length album, Josh? Yeah?
I like this one.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not really anything about it that I don't like. And I like that there's only one full-length album here. I kind of thought this was it. I didn't know they had anything else.
Yes, yeah, you can't find Setting Roots for the Winter on Spotify, which is sad because I'm listening to it right now. It's a pretty good EP. It's only two songs, but it's pretty good.
I don't
And
know
you
if
can
that's an
tell, like,
EP.
what do you mean? Just the
Two
two
songs.
songs? Well,
I
yeah,
see
but
people
dude, it's
say
like,
that like a lot. It'll be like two songs. They're like, oh yeah, it's an EP. Ah, that's like a
right.
sampler.
Yeah, but it actually goes into, I mean, it's like 10, 12 minutes long, you know. But I get what
Okay.
you're saying too. It's
It's
not,
got
yeah,
to
it's
be at
not like it's
least
just like
four
two
tracks to be an
songs.
EP in my book.
Here we go. Um, but yeah, I feel like you can kind of hear some of the progression on that, and so it would have been interesting to see like where they were gonna go. Um, but anyway, back to what you were saying about this album.
Yeah, I like that it's kind of a one and done, you know? It doesn't have time to change at all in the next album, really. I mean, there's not another full length. So there's not another full length where you're
Right.
like, okay, they completely changed their sound.
Yeah, kind of like the last band we were talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, just it checks a lot of boxes for me. The music's there. The vocals are good. It's two great vocalists that I like in their very early years.
Yeah, and that's interesting thing too. You can find a lot of live sets on YouTube. Obviously, they're pretty grainy and not good quality, but I mean,
Right.
it's them two. They're both sometimes they'll both play guitar and scream at the same time. It's kind of like dueling vocals. Sometimes Corey will just do vocals by himself or not do guitar with it. But it's kind of an interesting like setup that they have. And I always liked it when you can see it on some of the videos, like they'll like face each other. They'll put two microphone stands like right next to each other and just like face each other instead of facing the crowd. Which is kind of an interesting like thing that they were trying to go for overall. Um, like I said though, at the very beginning, very, very on the nose lyrically with what they believe and such like that.
Oh yeah.
Too on the nose for you, Josh? Would you like a
Uh,
little more
just
discreet?
a little bit at times, but you know,
Yeah,
it
it is
doesn't
what
take
it
me
is.
out of the album too much. It makes me feel like, early Zayo, where
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
pretty on the nose at points, but I'll still listen to the album.
There's a couple of times where I know definitely know it's the first track at the very beginning when they're coming in with the instruments, and there's a guitar part that kind of fades in where it's just like do 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 do, and then they do the same kind of tones on at the beginning of Processed Bodies, where it's just kind of like it's kind of unsettling tones, you know.
Yeah,
Kind of, I was like, ugh, it makes the hair on my back of my neck stand up, kind of disturbing almost. But
I like that.
I like it. Um, yeah, that's all I had for that too. Anything else, Josh, for their one and only fulling? Not much really to say here. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about like these singular albums because, if you like it, then it's like, oh, cool. And then they were gone.
You're like, oh, yeah.
What was their
Producer. Oh, go ahead.
what was this EP called?
Oh, it's called Setting Roots for the Winter. It's got a guy in a suit and tie, classic, with like roots coming out of his head, like a blue background, on YouTube. Producer and lead vocalist slash guitarist Bruce Fitzhugh of the band Living Sacrifice would take the young band out on tour along with the band Embodiment. The group would also get to tour across Europe supporting Swedish rockers Blindside. Nice. Soon after, the band would release an EP with hopes of releasing a new full length album soon after, the one Josh is looking up currently 2000's Setting Roots for Winter from Dead Self Records. Produced by Jared Norris and Kent Stump. Originally, the EP was set for release in 1999, but wouldn't be released until 2000. It's only got two songs on it, so Josh isn't calling it an EP. It's the Setting Roots for the Winter sampler. Ugh, according to Josh. The two
When
songs.
when do you have listed that um their self-titled came out?
1998.
See, I've got 2001 here.
So,
And
okay, but that's the thing about it is they released it independently in 1998. And
okay.
then a Swedish record label would lease it probably a year after that. And then Solid States would come out later on and lease it. So that was probably 2001. Is that what it says on Spotify?
Yes, and
Okay,
that
then that's what
one
it is.
sounds a lot more cleaned up than what I'm
Oh,
hearing
yes,
on Setting
yes.
Roots for the Winter.
Well, yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I'm sure they go back and, you know,
Setting Roots for the Winter is mostly just like garbled, man. It's like so poorly recorded.
Well, What do you want from them? It's a sampler.
This is a shitty sampler.
I want my money back.
No, I
Oh
mean,
man.
if this had been recorded like halfway decently at all, I could see this being pretty good, but it's so bad. Like, you can't tell what's going on most of the time with the guitars and the bass. It's just clutter noise. You can like kind of hear a note from the guitar like ring out every now and again, but the bass is almost completely buried. Yeah, this is just a lot of garbled. Yeah, this is not great. Hey, buddy, are you muted?
Hey, all right. By the time the EP had come out, founding member Matthew Putnam on drums and Arthur Green on bass had departed from the band to pursue other projects, with Stephen McDonald on drums and Gabriel Edmonds on bass filling their vacancies. And original guitarist Matt Depper on guitar would return to the group. Okay, well, let me say it again for you, Josh. Remember, I said at the beginning of the episode, they got down to three members. That was the lowest point that they got to, basically.
Yes.
Okay, here's where the lineup gets crazy. And I think it's kind of like, after you hear what I'm about to say, you're probably going to say, okay, this is the end. This is over with. According to vocalist Corey Putman, years later, looking back on the band, at this moment in the band's history, the lineup would consist of two vocalists, four guitarists, two bassists, and two drummers. I ask you, Josh, overkill?
You don't need the second bassist and you don't need that fourth guitarist. What the hell are you doing with a fourth guitarist?
It's called avant-garde, Josh.
You just looked at Skinner and you're like, no, we'll do like one better.
Skinnered on crack right
That's
there,
at
man.
least two guys playing the exact same thing all the time
Hmm.
for no reason.
Hmm.
Like, I'll give
Yeah,
you
I'm not
three. You can do a lot of cool stuff with three, but four
right.
is totally unnecessary. And you said two drummers? I hate when a band has two drummers. That
I
is
was waiting for that one.
awful. That is awful. I hate seeing two guys up there playing drums together.
I think they got in the car and they ran it over and then backed up and ran over again. They just kept like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's how much of an overkill
I'm
I feel
okay with the
like.
two vocalists. I'm okay with three guitarists. But you do not need a second bassist, a
Yeah,
second
that's
drummer, and a fourth guitarist.
that was the one that I was always like, why do you have two basses? What's the point of that? Because nobody else has one? Is that what you're trying to do? You're like, well, we
Right.
got two basses. Nobody's ever done that before. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going
Primus
on.
has
But you
two
know what?
bassists, don't they?
Who?
Primus?
No, it's just one guy.
I thought there were two.
Nah, it's just one dude.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just Les Claypool. I
Well, live though, he doesn't have somebody else with him.
don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's doing it all by himself unless something's changed
Hmm.
recently. We gonna find out, buddy. That's what we
Yeah.
gonna do.
I wonder who I'm
Yeah, it
thinking
should
of.
just be. Huh?
Wonder who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I've never, I mean, besides them, Eso-Charis, that's the only time that I've ever heard of somebody having two bassists. Double bass? What the heck is a double? Oh, okay, yeah. I was like, what the? I thought you meant like a guitar, that has like two necks on it. I thought it was like something like that. It's like a double bass. Why do you need that? Um, I mean, we're sitting here, we're talking about this, Josh, but you know what? Doesn't even matter because not long after that, the band would break up in 2002. Of importance, and we already kind of know this, Josh, but vocalist slash guitarist Jason Holmes would go on to form the Arkansas sludge metal band The Handshake Murders, while Corey Putman would go on to join Living Sacrifice for a very short period of time, as well as helping out his friend Jason in the Handshake Murders' early work before eventually joining the almighty Norma Jean. So it's probably for the best. It was one and done. Get in, get out. It's fun while it lasted. But let's move on to bigger and better things. Like I said, in the end, you basically get two bands out of this. You get the Handshake Murders, which is a brand new band. Norm Jean's already around, but you kind of beef it up now with Corey getting in there. So I think we can all agree it was a happy ending in the end.
Yeah, they put out
And
one pretty good one and then, you know,
they,
scattered their
they went on to
talent to the
bigger and better
wind.
things. Yes, exactly. And thus, Josh, the short, very short history of Eso-Charis was stamped in the history books of core genre forever. All right. Anything else, Josh, to say about the band known as Eso-Charis? You want three basses, don't you? One army of basses just
Yeah, two wasn't enough.
it's like, what the heck, man?
I saw
Two
there are a
basses.
bunch
One
of
of them
bands though that
is
use two basses.
really okay. Two
Yeah,
basses. One of them is doing finger picking. The other guy's using an actual pick.
okay.
In those
Totally
bands though,
unnecessary.
are they both actually like playing bass, or is one of them playing regular bass and the other one's playing like, upright bass?
No, most of the time they're just both bass guitars.
What are some of the bands?
There's a band called Cop Shoot Cop. There was one called Molotov. Um,
Ask
who's the other?
questions later.
They said Spinal Tap does it in a few songs.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like random bands. There was only like Spinal Tap was the only one that I recognized.
Noise rock. I mean, that makes sense because at that point you're just making noise.
I mean, Thundercat's not really a band per se, but he does two basses. Like, he does lead, and
Interesting.
another guy plays rhythm.
I think with the drumming thing, it'd be one thing if it was like you have a drummer, but then you kind of have like a percussionist guy making little, you know.
I think you know that I don't like that part of the Long
Oh,
Live
you
music
don't.
video. It's
Okay.
so cheesy, like it's so tacky. When two
Okay.
drummers are like playing together, they're never like doing anything like two guitarists could be doing. For some
Right.
reason, they're always just playing like the same like bum ba bum ba bum ba 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 ba, and they gotta be looking at each other. Oh, you over there. Ah, we're both playing the same little rhythm. Look at us.
Like the Blue Band Group.
Yeah,
What is this? We
it's
don't know.
so tacky feeling.
Oh
You don't
boy.
need two.
One
Like you
is
just,
enough.
yeah, one is plenty. Get a good one. One is plenty.
One is good. Two to be one. Not good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, the only place there should be duplicates in your band is guitarists and vocalists.
Hmm.
Other than that, I think we're
What about
good.
two keyboardists?
No, one
No.
is plenty.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Can't think of anybody else. All right, make sure to follow us on Twitter at is survived by pro for news and the latest episode postings, not just on this show, but our other shows as well. We have the History of the Chords After Hours podcast, where I sit down with my good friend and avid listener of this very podcast, Eric, and we talk about some of the bands me and Josh have already discussed. We also have the Red Right Hand podcast, which has covered all 6 seasons, and sooner or later, there'll be a movie to cover of the Netflix/BBC hit show, The Peaky Blinders. But more importantly, Josh, we all know what the big dog is here on this production company. It's the Throne of the Dragon podcast, Josh, which covers each and every episode of HBO's House of the Dragon, currently in season 2 right now. Make sure to go
Ah,
check that off. What the heck was that?
early in
Like,
season two. Ah.
okay, I was a little, yeah, that was a little worried what you were doing there. Uh, also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host Keep your hands where they are, Josh, so we can see them at all times. Joshua at Joshua Lynn.
I gotta do to say
Gary.
season 2.
Season 2. All right, Randy Marsh. Make sure to follow or leave us a 5-star review and write us on a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. And if you want to listen to us and see our smiling faces, head on over to our YouTube page. Just search Is Survived by Productions. That'll have every episode from all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up the video. Alrighty, until the next episode where we're looking at an even shorter history here from the band known as Here I Come Falling. We'll see you.